News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moskow.
Karen, it is risk off across markets with a third day of attacks underway across the Middle East. Blasts have been heard this morning in Bahrain, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar as Iran targets U.S. interests in the region. President Trump says the bombing campaign against Iran could last for weeks. He's calling on the Islamic Republic's remaining leaders to give up.
I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, and police to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty.
President Trump spoke in a new social media post late yesterday. The president told the New York Times he's willing to drop sanctions on Iran if its new leader is pragmatic. But in an interview with ABC News, he said his favored choices after the death of Iran's Supreme Leader have all died in the attacks. Iran's security chief says Tehran won't negotiate with the U.S. And this morning, Kuwait's army said a number of U.S. fighter jets had crashed, but all crew members survived. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency says 555 people have been killed in U.S. and Israeli attacks.
Well, later this morning, Nathan, the Pentagon plans to hold a news conference on the operation against Iran, and that's set for 8 a.m. Wall Street time. The White House says Congress will receive a full briefing tomorrow from the Pentagon, State Department, and CIA. Republican Congressman Michael McCall says Iran faces an extraordinary opportunity.
Since 1979, there's been a dark veil that descended across the Middle East, and that shroud has now been lifted. And the people of Iran now have a chance for freedom and a chance to take back their country.
But the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, says the White House still has not spelled out its ultimate goals from this conflict.
Is the goal Iran's nuclear capability? Is it the ballistic missiles, regime change? And let me acknowledge the fact that the Iranian leadership, the Supreme Leader's taken out. I mean, that is good news. I mean, this regime is awful. But I can tell you from the intelligence standpoint, we don't have great visibility about who or what comes next.
Senator Warner and Congressman McCall were guests on our new show, Bloomberg This Weekend. Catch the show Saturdays and Sundays from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern across Bloomberg platforms.
Well, Karen, Iran is looking for a successor to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the 86-year-old Supreme Leader of Iran who was killed in the airstrikes. Golnar Motovali leads Bloomberg's coverage in Iran.
In Iran, there is always under the Islamic Republic, there is always a contingency for the appointment and the succession process of the Supreme Leader, almost as soon as the Supreme Leader is appointed in the first place. And that's actually embedded in the Constitution. So even if Khamenei had died of natural causes or of old age, and he was 86 years old, so there would have been some form of preparation for his succession. We've known that for some time.
Bloomberg's Golnar Motovali says Iran's constitution does call for an assembly of experts to choose the next Supreme Leader, but that may not be possible in wartime.
Well, Nathan, there are more signs the conflict is spreading across the region. Israel bombed Beirut and told residents in dozens of southern Lebanese villages to leave after the militant Hezbollah group fired rockets and drones into the Jewish state. Speaking yesterday through a translator before the latest military action was announced, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the U.S.-Israel offensive against Iran.
It has truly reached the record of all times, an alliance in peace and in war. And this war will bring about true peace.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking through an interpreter. Lebanese authorities say more than 30 people were killed in the Israeli airstrikes today.
And there is plenty of reaction from world leaders this morning to the military action in Iran. Karen, Japanese Prime Minister Sana Takaichi condemned Iran's nuclear program in a carefully worded response that avoided commenting on whether Tokyo supported Washington's strikes on Tehran. North Korea condemned Israel's military attack with U.S. military support as a, quote, shameless and illegal act of aggression. The UK, France, and Germany have issued a joint statement saying they were not involved in the strikes but are in close contact with the U.S., Israel, and partners in the region. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the UK will not be involved in offensive action.
I want to be very clear. We all remember the mistakes of Iraq, and we have learned those lessons. We were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran, and we will not join offensive action now. But Iran is pursuing a scorched earth strategy, so we are supporting the collective self-defense of our allies and our people in the region.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the UK has since allowed the US to make use of British military bases for the specific purpose of destroying Iranian missile sites.
And we have a programming note here, Nathan. As we just saw this past weekend, markets may close on Friday, but the world does not. And that's why we're bringing you a new live radio and TV show. Bloomberg this weekend is looking beyond the daily headlines to the bigger themes driving politics, business, and culture. Join David Gura, Christina Ruffini, and Lisa Matteo for smart conversations and in-depth interviews that help make sense of the week that's been and what comes next. Get the show live Saturdays and Sundays from 7 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, TV, and the Bloomberg Business app. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moskow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.